Hey guys, welcome back. I want to apologize for the poor rate of release for these videos recently. Today, October 22nd, it is going to be 95 degrees where I live. And it's been like that for a little while. We had a couple days of cool, and that was nice. But where my computer is set up, I'm right next to the window. So if I have that open, you can hear everything that happens on the street. So I have to have it closed. And if it's hot, I can't really keep it closed. So I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it gets better. But I don't know. There's really no open site. Anyways, today we're going to continue talking about the Death Guard. We're going to get into a little bit more of the kind of details, I guess. And we're going to start with a segment called Colors of Contagion. The uniforms and heraldry of the Death Guard are redolent of disease and decay. From the victoriums of the plague companies to divergent war bands that long ago broke from their parent legion, all can be easily identified by the filth that encrusts their armor, the rot and rust that clings to them, and the foul Nurgle iconography emblazoned on their heavy plate. Malignant and deadly, the plague knife wielded by the warriors of the Death Guard dates to the time of the Horus Heresy. The warped metal of its blade gives off a low, discordant whine that sets teeth on edge and makes eyes water, while the slightest nick from its notched edge causes disease to blossom with rampant speed. Beneath his pitted helm, this plague marine's visage is horrifically decayed, a skull-like mass of festering flesh and ripe buboes, punctured by phlegm-rattling tubes and pipes. The gruesome substances that pump through this diseased respirator are best left unspoken, but they run thick with Nurgle's foul blessings. Along with the sigils of Nurgle and the segmented fly of the Death Guard, Mortarion's sons can be easily identified by the array of blight grenades they carry at their belts. From blunt iron stick bombs to the virulently blessed rotting heads of their foes, these foul weapons detonate to release choking clouds of plague spores. Flesh dissolves and armor corrodes at their touch, reducing enemies to filthy sludge in mere moments. Ever since the last days of the Horus Heresy, the Death Guard have retained their uniform colors of leprous green and verdigreed brass. Though many of the Legion's victoriums have adopted their own foul panoply, vast swaths of the Death Guard still march to war clad in these same grim hues. The trilobe rune of Nurgle and the sigil of the Plague Fly can be seen much in evidence on the armor of the Death Guard legionaries, proclaiming their allegiance to the god of plagues and their dedication to spreading his vile contagions. The Tainted Sons. One of the most feared victoriums of the Death Guard, the Tainted Sons earned the favor of Mortarion himself whilst fighting alongside him during the endless campaigns within the Eye of Terror. Unleashed at last upon the ailing Imperium, Lord Golgoth the Afflictor and his hideously bloated warriors embody the implacable fortitude and relentless aggression of the 14th Legion, and make use of every available weapon in their ongoing war against the Imperium. The Pallid Hand. Masters of the armored assault, the Pallid Hand employ a greater number of Chaos Predators and Land Raiders than any other victorium of the Death Guard. Those enemies that are not crushed beneath their rusted treads are blasted apart by indiscriminate artillery bombardments. The Pallid Hand are part of the Second Plague Company of the Death Guard, and thus are willing hosts of the Ferric Blight, which furs their armor and tanks alike with flaking, contagious rust. The fecund ones. When an agri-world is infected with one of the innumerable boxes of Nurgle, the warband known as the fecund ones are often the culprits. Belonging to the alchemically gifted 7th Plague Company, the fecund ones are masters of brewing virulent blights and parasitic phages. They delight in sowing these putrescent gifts among the food supplies of the Imperium's oblivious masses, leading many worlds they invade to be crippled by either hideous vomiting plagues or widespread famine and starvation. The Putrid Choir. The Putrid Choir belongs to the 3rd Plague Company. Their march to battle is signaled by the baleful toll of the Victoriums. I don't know this word. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Toxins of Misery. The text is tiny and there's no excuse. Toxins of Misery. Accompanying this maddening percussion comes discordant battle dirges, sung in praise of Grandfather Nurgle. Digging in amidst enemy territory, the Putrid Choir drive their foes mad with their droning cacophony, the enemy giving up defended positions and charging their guns rather than face the entropic aural torment. Okay, so they're noise marines, but Nurgle. Interesting. The Glooming Lords. The Glooming Lords are a morose host of killers who march to war surrounded by colossal clouds of droning black demon flies. They harbor a particular hatred for the sorcerous warbands of Tzeentch, whose vibrant, colorful figure they regard as insufferable. Belonging to the 6th Plague Company, the Ferrymen, the Glooming Lords, are led by heavy formations of Blightlord Terminators. Their bodies seethe with crawling flies as they crush the enemy contemptuously underfoot. Apostles of Contagion. Belonging to the 4th Plague Company, the Apostles of Contagion favor viral bombardment and sorcerous saturation before the battle begins. They march from amidst billowing clouds of corrosive spores and infectious vapors, their enemies screaming and putrefying even as they struggle to fight back. As the apostles chant the praise of Nurgle, packs of demons rise from the organic slurry to join the fight, overrunning the enemy with a tide of bloated bodies. The Moldering Claw. The Moldering Claw delight in brutality. They like to advance upon the enemy line as quickly as possible before hacking and bludgeoning them with plague-ridden blades, flails, and axes. These are warriors of the 1st Plague Company, fanatically devoted to typhus's cause, and the diseases they spread bring fresh waves of hideous plague zombies staggering into the grim light of battle, pinning the foe amidst groaning masses of undead flesh before the Moldering Claw close in to finish the job. The Weeping Legion. The Weeping Legion are so named because they enter battle covered in the foul gore of their own continuously dripping wounds. With each layer of rancid filth and scabbing black blood that encrusts their armor, these clot-festooned warriors of the Death Guard become even more resistant to damage. Battling as part of the 5th Plague Company, the Weeping Legion are heavily supported by foul demon engines that they daub with gobbets of their polluted vitae. Sickness, disease, plague, and pox, suffering, and the slow living rot. Such wondrous gifts does Nurgle seek to bestow upon the unworthy human cattle of the Imperium. We are merely the vectors by which his virulent beneficence may be spread to the undeserving masses. Urgloth Rothard, Plague Champion of the Death Guard. Carrion Hounds. Vast hordes of poxwalkers screen the advance of the Carrion Hounds. The warriors of this vile host great affection for the shambling monsters, and often assemble morbid collections of infected souls, such as defeated Astromilitarium regiments or entire noble families. Heralds of Despair. The Heralds of Despair revel in prolonged sieges and are obsessively methodical in their approach to warfare. After heavy bombardments and the severing of supply lines, they will seal an enemy force inside a fortress and watch as rot and hopelessness take hold of the inhabitants. The Corpse Makers. The Corpse Makers see the destruction of the Imperium's grandest strongholds as their profane duty. Burrowing into the bedrock of enemy bastions like maggots through flesh, they undermine and corrupt the foundation so that the entire structure soon falls. The Poisoned Chalice. A splinter warband of the Death Guard, the Poisoned Chalice are led by deranged groups of Blightspawn and Putrefiers. Rampaging across the galaxy with zealous vigor, they obsessively seek vile ingredients and hapless death subjects, questing to brew the perfect plague. The Favored Sons. Having broken away from Mortarion's rule, the Favored Sons seek Nurgle's blessings for themselves. Each tries to outdo his brothers in the hope of earning demonhood. Their master, Vermithras, the Blighted, is a demon prince who surrounds himself with gruesome champions of Nurgle. The Rotworm Brotherhood. This warband is led by a conclave of sorcerers who rebelled against Mortarion. They raise cults of mortal worshippers across the Imperium, their task to multiply like a word I can't read because the font is kind of weird, and spread worship of Nurgle, undermining civilization before the Rotworm Brotherhood descends to despoil all. These guys sound lovely. So we're going to be moving on to, actually, you know what? I think I might save this for a separate video. You know what? There's a lot of it. Never mind. We're going to be moving on to some of the fluff descriptions of tabletop units, starting with Mortarion. The Deathlord, Demon Primarch of Nurgle. For 10,000 years, Mortarion, Lord of the Death Guard, has crushed his enemies upon the field of battle. Clad in the baroque armor known as the Barbaran Plate, swathed and cowled in moldering robes, Mortarion towers over even the mightiest of humanity's champions. In one hand he wields the fearsome scythe known as Silence. In the other he carries the dreaded Lantern, an ancient Xenos energy pistol so powerful that a single shot can sear through even Terminator plate. Surrounded by chittering demon mites, droning flies, and noxious plague vapors, Mortarion swoops into battle upon vast, creaking wings. The thudding beat of these foul pinions fills the enemy with crawling dread, even as they waft the reek of death across their lines. Mortarion is a grisly reaper, whose every scythe swing sends enemies tumbling away with heads and limbs lopped off. Each blast of the Lantern turns enemies to drifting ash, while the noxious phosphex bombs that Mortarion hurls reduce their victims to bubbling bio-waste in seconds. To even stand in the presence of the Deathlord is lethal, opponents choking and collapsing as they succumb to the myriad plagues that churn the air around him. If Mortarion were simply a rampaging monster, he would be terrifying enough. Yet despite how far he has fallen from the Emperor's grace, he is still a Primarch. Mortarion's intellect is towering, and his strategic acumen as an infantry general remains undimmed. The Deathlord can read the shape of a battle at a glance, instantly determining the most direct route towards victory. He cares little for casualties, believing that his sons must always strive to prove their fortitude, and that victory belongs only to those with the strength to claim it. If Mortarion could be said to have a weakness, it is that contempt for his enemies sometimes leads him to underestimate the foe. Still, against the relentless, perfectly orchestrated onslaught of Mortarion and his Death Guard, it is a rare enemy that can stand for long. When the Emperor came to Barbarous, Mortarion stood upon the cusp of his final victory against the carnal overlords. It was his life's struggle, yet the Emperor dismissed it as little more than an inconvenience, a footnote in the history of the Great Crusade. Worse, when Mortarion strove to slay the last of his cadaverous foes, the being that had once claimed him as a son and could not enter his enemy's toxic lair, the Emperor smote the creature, saving the Primarch's life but earning his eternal bitterness and enmity. Perhaps it was in that moment that the seed of Mortarion's rebellion was planted. Whatever the case, Mortarion is driven still by his depthless hatred for the Emperor, a resentment so great that it drove him into Nurgle's festering clutches and damned him and his legion for all time. Silence. Mortarion wields a towering scythe named Silence, whose warped half is as long as its wielder is tall. With its rusted razor edge and snarling chain teeth, this huge weapon is capable of slicing through entire ranks of infantry. With Mortarion's unnatural might behind it, Silence has beheaded heroes and split ranks in two, eviscerated greater demons, and even hacked the leg from a Reaver battle titan. An endless parade of champions and war leaders has fallen to the Man-Reaper's deadly blade. The blood of worlds stains its cutting edge. It is not just raw power that makes Silence such a fearsome weapon. A plague demon dwells within the censer that tops its haft. This entity's foul power renders the slightest nick from the blade lethally poisonous. It also infests the leprous smog that billows in trails behind each swing of the scythe, rendering it anathema. Metal rusts and flesh rots at its mere touch, reducing the enemy to putrid ruin in moments. Demon Princes of Nurgle. Demonhood, ascension, immortality, and otherworldly power. Such are the ultimate rewards that the heretic Astartes strive for. They will commit any atrocity, pay any price, and even part with their immortal souls for a chance to become a demon prince. Most never achieve their goal, falling to the blades of their foes or devolving into hideous chaos spawn. Yet, for those who do climb this final pinnacle, incredible power awaits. Demon Princes of Nurgle are lumbering abominations, whose unnatural resilience renders them nigh invulnerable. They are swollen with power, their groaning, corroded armor burst open by the bulging flesh within. Layers of rotting flab and putrid innards spill from their necrotic skin, insulating them against small arms fire, while notions of pain and weakness are long forgotten. Even direct hits from tank-busting weaponry do little to slow these immortal horrors, for though they may punch through the Demon Prince's body, this will achieve little but spray infected pus and slime across friend and foe alike. Grotesque resilience is far from the only power exhibited by these ascendant beings. Demon Princes of Nurgle possess the strength to heft a battle tank and hurl it through the air, while every swing of their rusted blades and putrid claws smashes enemy warriors from their feet. Many possess psychic abilities, molding their energies of the immaterium to their will, and unleashing them in the form of plague outbreaks, torrents of infectious slime, or hideous wasting X's. Some demon princes can even fly, enormous insect wings or spiraling vortices of noxious fumes carrying them across the battlefield. Their bodies may exude corrosive spores and deadly viral strains, or form squirming hatcheries for swirling clouds of plague flies. In every case, The demon princes turn these dark powers to the spreading of Nurgle's blighted gifts, and the destruction of the plague god's many foes. Amongst the ranks of the Death Guard, demon princes act as warlords, leading Sepsis cohorts and Vectoriums into battle. Their followers are unquestioningly obey their commands. Not only do demon princes retain their martial skill and cunning from their former lives, but they are also the living embodiments of Nurgle's favor. The Death Guard worship these beings as demigods, second only to Mortarion in unholy might. Yet for all this, the grim truth is that the demon princes of Nurgle have swapped the fetters of mortality for slavery of another sort. They revel in their diseased might, blind to the irony that immortality has bound them inescapably to Nurgle's will for the rest of eternity. Such delightful horrors I have wrought, such bounteous rot and disease have I bestowed in the Grandfather's name. Yet always there must be more, for with every world I ruin, so Nurgle rewards me further, and so my might grows ever greater. Philothrox the Maggot Father. And with that, we are going to stop here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye-bye.